The morning sun rose over Maplewood, filling the wheat fields with golden light. Farmer Ben walked to the edge of his largest field. The FBI tent was still there, though smaller now, and a sense of calm hung in the air. The box he had discovered weeks ago had been examined thoroughly, and most of the letters and devices had been taken to a secure facility. Yet there was still work to be done, and Ben felt that today would be the last day of this extraordinary chapter in his life. Agent Harris and Agent Lee were already at work, carefully reviewing the final letters that had remained in the tent. Ben approached quietly, feeling both nervous and proud. He had never imagined that his simple farm could become the center of such an important discovery. "Good morning, Ben," Lee said with a smile. "Today we will finish cataloging and studying the remaining items. We want to make sure everything is accounted for before we leave." Ben nodded. He could see the seriousness in their faces. Even though the letters and devices had already revealed incredible information, the agents knew that every small detail mattered. They worked efficiently, documenting each piece and checking the decoding results against the notes they had taken over the past weeks. Ben walked around the tent, looking at the wheat swaying gently in the breeze. His farm had always been peaceful, a quiet place where he could work with the soil and care for his animals. Now it had become a place of discovery, history, and secrets that had been buried for decades. He felt proud yet humble. He had played a role, but the real heroes were the people who had written the letters and buried the box long ago, ensuring that their knowledge would survive. By mid-morning, Harris and Lee had made significant progress. They carefully re-examined the letters and discovered connections that even they had not seen before. Some of the messages described events that had influenced the lives of many people quietly. Other letters mentioned careful actions taken to protect communities and prevent mistakes from becoming disasters. "These letters are extraordinary," Harris said. "They show a level of thoughtfulness and foresight that is rare. The people who wrote them acted in secret, yet their work had a lasting impact. We are lucky that they chose to preserve this information in a way that could be discovered eventually." Ben felt a sense of wonder. He had found the box while drilling a well, an ordinary task for a farmer. Yet it had led to the discovery of something extraordinary. He realized that sometimes even the simplest actions can uncover hidden truths. As the day progressed, the agents began to prepare for their departure. Most of the letters and devices were already taken to a secure facility, but they wanted to leave a few items behind for final observation. Ben helped carefully arrange everything. He felt a quiet pride in assisting the agents, knowing that he had contributed to the preservation of this important history. "Ben," Lee said, "we want to thank you again. You found the box and reported it immediately. Your honesty and calmness allowed us to handle this discovery safely. Without you, we might have never uncovered these secrets." Ben smiled, feeling warmth in his chest. He had not expected praise or recognition. He had only done what he thought was right. Yet now, standing in the field he had cared for all his life, he felt a sense of accomplishment. He had discovered something extraordinary and helped ensure that it was treated with respect. By afternoon, the last of the letters had been studied. Harris and Lee reviewed their notes one final time. The discoveries were incredible. The box had contained information that revealed the courage and careful planning of people who had acted quietly to protect others and prevent harm. The letters had documented important decisions, messages, and actions that had shaped events in ways few people could imagine. Ben listened as the agents summarized their findings. "This discovery will be preserved in the National Archives," Harris said. "It contains historical evidence and stories of bravery. Your farm was the starting point for uncovering something that will be remembered for years to come." Ben felt a lump in his throat. He had always seen his farm as a place of work and peace. Now it had become a part of history. The wheat fields, the soil, and even the small well he had drilled had played a role in uncovering secrets that had remained hidden for decades. As the sun began to set, the FBI agents packed up their remaining equipment. The tent was taken down and the field returned to its natural state. Ben walked through the rows of wheat, feeling the soft breeze against his face. The field was quiet again, but the memory of the discovery remained vivid. Harris turned to Ben and said, "You can return to your normal life now. The work here is done, but your actions will always be remembered. You acted with honesty and courage, and that made all the difference." Ben nodded. He felt a deep sense of fulfillment. His quiet life as a farmer would continue, but he knew that he had been part of something larger than himself. The discovery had changed him, giving him a new understanding of responsibility, history, and the importance of truth. That evening, Ben walked back to his farmhouse. The golden sunlight cast long shadows across the fields, and the wind whispered through the wheat. He thought about the people who had buried the box, the writers of the letters, and the agents who had studied the contents. He realized that courage, honesty, and careful choices could leave a lasting impact, even if the world did not know the story at first. Ben sat on his porch, sipping a cup of tea, and reflected on the weeks that had passed. His farm had been quiet for so many years, and now it had been the center of a discovery that would be remembered. He felt proud, but he also felt gratitude. Gratitude for the people who had trusted in secrecy, for the agents who had handled the discovery responsibly, and for his own role in uncovering the hidden truth. As night fell, Ben looked out over the fields. The stars shone brightly and the air was calm. He thought about the mystery, the discovery, and the hidden stories of courage and careful planning. He knew that his life had changed in ways he could not have imagined, and he felt content. In the days that followed, life returned to its normal rhythm. Ben tended to his animals, planted new crops, and continued his daily work. Yet he carried the memory of the discovery with him. The field that had once been just soil and wheat had revealed secrets that connected him to history, bravery, and truth. Neighbors occasionally asked about the tent and the agents, but Ben simply smiled and said, "It was something important. Now it is taken care of." He did not need to explain everything. The story of the box would be preserved, but he was content to return to his quiet life, knowing he had done the right thing. Ben often walked through the wheat fields, thinking about the hidden story that had been buried beneath his feet. He realized that ordinary actions could lead to extraordinary discoveries. His curiosity, honesty, and careful attention had brought a secret to light, and that secret had been preserved for the world. He felt proud, yet humble. His farm had always been his home, but now it had become a symbol of responsibility and courage. The discovery had reminded him that even small actions like drilling a well could uncover truths that changed lives. As the sun rose each morning and set each evening, Ben continued his work with a new sense of purpose. He fed the animals, tended the crops, and walked the fields, but he also carried a quiet pride. He had been part of something extraordinary, and that knowledge stayed with him always. One evening, as he stood at the edge of his field, watching the stars appear in the darkening sky, Ben smiled. The box had been discovered, the secrets had been studied, and the truth had been preserved. He had acted honestly and responsibly, and that had made all the difference. Farmer Ben returned to his small farmhouse feeling content and at peace. He knew that life would continue quietly, but he also knew that he had been a part of a story far larger than himself. His farm, his field, and the box had revealed courage, secrecy, and the importance of honesty. And sometimes, when he walked past the spot where he had drilled the well, he would pause and smile quietly to himself. The field had been more than soil and wheat. It had been a witness to hidden truth, and he had been its guardian. Ben went to sleep that night knowing that his life had changed forever. He had discovered a hidden story, helped preserve it, and returned to his quiet life as a farmer, wiser, stronger, and proud of the part he had played in uncovering the truth. Ryan had always loved the lake. It was a quiet place where the water shimmered in the sunlight and the wind whispered through the trees. His small wooden cabin stood at the edge of the forest with a narrow path leading down to the clear, calm water. For Ryan, it was not just a cabin. It was a sanctuary, a place where he could forget the rules of the city and live life at his own pace. Ryan's weekends were simple but fulfilling. He would wake up early to watch the sunrise over the water, make a cup of tea, and sit on the small porch listening to birds and the occasional splash of a fish jumping in the lake. He kept a few books on a shelf, a small collection of fishing rods by the wall, and a stack of neatly chopped firewood ready for the evenings. Every detail mattered to him, because the cabin represented freedom and he protected it like a treasure. However, freedom was not easy to keep in Ryan's neighborhood. The community had a strict homeowners association. They sent letters constantly, reminding residents about lawn heights, roof repairs, paint colors, and other rules that Ryan felt were unnecessary. The president of the HOA, Mr. Bell, was a man who enjoyed enforcing these rules. He visited unannounced, inspected properties, and often wrote long, demanding letters to homeowners who did not follow every regulation perfectly. Ryan had experienced Mr. Bell's attention before, and he knew it could be stressful. One bright Saturday morning, Ryan stepped outside with a stack of firewood in his arms. The air smelled of pine, water, and fresh earth. He enjoyed these quiet moments, but something made him glance up at the dirt road that led to his cabin. A black SUV was coming slowly down the narrow path. Ryan's stomach tightened. It was Mr. Bell. He had come to inspect the cabin again. Ryan placed the firewood carefully and walked toward the porch, pretending to enjoy the morning sun. He had anticipated this visit. He had prepared weeks ago, quietly and carefully. The cabin might have looked peaceful, but it held small, clever traps. Nothing dangerous, only tricks designed to protect his privacy and teach anyone trying to intrude a lesson. Ryan believed strongly in protecting his sanctuary, and he had made sure that Mr. Bell would regret any attempt to enter uninvited. He remembered the first letter from Mr. Bell. It had been polite at first, requesting that he repair the small wooden railing on his porch. Ryan had fixed it immediately, but the second letter had demanded that he paint the cabin a color approved by the HOA. Ryan ignored it, knowing it was his property and he had the right to choose. That letter had come with a warning about penalties for non-compliance. Since then, Mr. Bell's visits had become frequent, each one more intrusive than the last. Ryan's mind was calm now, but his heart beat faster as he watched the SUV pull up near the cabin. Mr. Bell stepped out, dressed in a crisp white shirt and neatly pressed trousers. His eyes scanned the surroundings critically, and Ryan felt the familiar tension in the air. He waved casually, smiling in a friendly but distant manner. "Good morning, Mr. Bell," Ryan said. "Beautiful day for the lake, isn't it?" Mr. Bell nodded, but his eyes remained sharp. "Morning, Ryan. I'm here for a routine inspection. I hope everything is in order." His tone suggested that he did not believe the cabin could ever be in order according to his standards. Ryan nodded and smiled. "Of course. Please feel free to take a look around." As Mr. Bell walked toward the cabin, Ryan's fingers brushed against a small lever hidden beneath the porch railing. It was connected to the first of the traps he had installed, a simple mechanism that would create noise and draw attention if someone stepped too close to the cabin's entrance without permission. Ryan did not want to hurt anyone. He only wanted to protect his space. The door of the cabin was slightly ajar, as if inviting a visitor inside. Mr. Bell, unaware of Ryan's preparations, reached for the knob. Just as his hand touched it, a soft bell rang from above the door. A bucket filled with small wooden beads tipped over, spilling a harmless but surprising shower over him. Mr. Bell jumped back in shock, wiping beads off his clothes. Ryan walked calmly to the porch. "I hope you don't mind," he said, smiling. "I like to make sure visitors are careful when they enter my cabin." Mr. Bell's expression was a mix of irritation and confusion. "This is unusual," he muttered, clearly taken aback. He adjusted his shirt and stepped cautiously toward the path leading to the back of the cabin. He was trying to maintain authority, but it was clear that Ryan's cabin was not going to be inspected in the usual way. Ryan watched as Mr. Bell carefully stepped around a small net laid flat on the ground, which triggered a harmless puff of colored powder when touched. The powder created a bright cloud in the sunlight, making Mr. Bell sneeze and blink rapidly. He looked around, unsure how to react, and Ryan took the opportunity to invite him politely. "Mr. Bell, would you like some tea? It's fresh and warm. You might enjoy a moment of calm after your walk," Ryan offered. Mr. Bell hesitated. The man's pride was clear, but the cabin's defenses and Ryan's calm presence created a strange mix of respect and caution. He nodded slowly. "I suppose a cup of tea would be fine," he said, his voice softer than before. Ryan led him inside. The cabin smelled of pine and fresh bread from the small oven Ryan used to bake on weekends. He poured 2 cups of tea and handed one to Mr. Bell. "I hope you like it," Ryan said. "It's a recipe my grandmother taught me." Mr. Bell sipped the tea and seemed to relax slightly, though he still looked around the cabin with suspicion. Ryan took the opportunity to explain his love for the lake and the cabin. He spoke about the quiet mornings, the fish he caught, and the way the water reflected the sunlight. His voice was calm, steady, and confident. "I understand the rules of the neighborhood," Ryan said, "but this cabin is my personal space. I work hard, and this place is where I find peace. I hope you can respect that." Mr. Bell remained silent for a moment. Then he put down the cup of tea and looked directly at Ryan. "I have never seen anyone set up their home like this," he said. His voice carried a hint of admiration mixed with disbelief. "You have a way of protecting your space without harming anyone. That is unusual," Ryan smiled. "I only want my home to be safe. It's not about harming anyone, only about privacy and respect." The tension in the room slowly eased. Mr. Bell seemed to understand, though he was not used to people standing their ground in such a calm and clever way. He nodded. "I will take note of that," he said, finishing the last sip of tea. He stood up carefully, making sure not to disturb any more of the harmless traps. Ryan escorted him to the door, his mind calm and satisfied. "Thank you for visiting, Mr. Bell. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day," he said politely. Mr. Bell stepped outside and looked around one last time. He seemed unsure whether to be impressed or frustrated. Finally, he nodded, got into his SUV, and drove away slowly, leaving Ryan alone at the cabin. Ryan watched the SUV disappear down the dirt road. He smiled quietly to himself. The cabin was safe, his privacy was intact, and he had handled the situation with cleverness and calm. The lake reflected the sunlight as peacefully as ever, and Ryan returned to stacking firewood, feeling content. The cabin had once again proved that it was not just a structure made of wood and nails. It was a place where Ryan could be free, protected, and respected. And Ryan knew that as long as he cared for it, the lake cabin would always be his sanctuary. The cabin by the lake was silent now, except for the gentle sound of the water lapping against the shore. Ryan sat on the porch, a small lantern beside him, and watched the reflection of the moon ripple on the surface. He had spent the day fixing the fence near the path and trimming branches that could block the view from the cabin. He was proud of the work. Every detail mattered to him, and he felt that his little sanctuary was safer than ever. Despite the calm, Ryan knew that Mr. Bell, the persistent HOA president, might return. The man had visited twice, each time trying to assert control, and each time Ryan had used his clever traps to defend his privacy without causing harm. Ryan had learned that Mr. Bell was not easily discouraged. The second visit had only fueled the man's determination. Ryan understood that being prepared meant more than traps. It meant careful observation and planning. As the night grew darker, Ryan decided to set up a small watch post near the edge of the cabin. He placed a wooden chair beside a tree that overlooked the main path. From there, he could see anyone approaching without being easily seen. He also placed a few small lanterns along the trail, their soft light revealing the path while concealing his own movements. Ryan checked the traps one more time. The bead bucket at the front door was in position. The powder nets near the garden were aligned carefully, and a few more harmless surprises had been added for anyone bold enough to approach without warning. These included small bells hidden in the bushes and a few sticks balanced to tip over when stepped on. Every trap was designed to surprise, not to harm. Ryan took a deep breath and leaned back on the chair, confident in his preparations. Hours passed quietly. The forest around the cabin was alive with the sounds of night. Crickets chirped, the wind rustled the leaves, and an occasional owl hooted in the distance. Ryan's mind wandered as he watched the moonlight glimmer on the water. He thought about the past visits, about the clever ways he had defended his privacy, and about the importance of protecting his sanctuary. Suddenly, a sound broke the calm. It was faint at first, like the soft crunch of shoes on dirt. Ryan sat up straight, eyes narrowing. Someone was coming. He watched carefully from the shadows. A figure emerged on the path, moving slowly but confidently. The black SUV that usually carried Mr. Bell was not there. This person was alone, Ryan observed quietly. It was Mr. Bell. He was walking along the path with a flashlight in hand, scanning the ground and trees carefully. His face was serious, more determined than before. Ryan's mind raced, thinking of how to handle this new visit. He needed to protect the cabin, his privacy, and the traps he had so carefully set. Ryan rose quietly and moved to a better position behind a tree. He could see Mr. Bell approaching the first trap. As expected, the bead bucket tipped over, spilling its contents with a gentle clatter. Mr. Bell jumped slightly, startled, and quickly realized it was harmless. He muttered something under his breath and continued more cautiously this time. Ryan smiled quietly. The traps worked as intended. They did not cause injury, but they demanded attention and respect. Mr. Bell reached the powder nets near the garden, and a small cloud of colored powder exploded into the air, covering his shoulders. He coughed lightly, blinking, and shook the powder from his clothing. Ryan watched from the shadows, calm and confident. Mr. Bell paused, clearly considering his next move. Ryan decided it was time to intervene directly. He stepped onto the path, calm and steady, his hands raised slightly to show no threat. "Good evening, Mr. Bell," Ryan said, his voice polite but firm. "I see you came again." Mr. Bell turned sharply, his eyes narrowing. "I need to inspect this property," he said, his tone serious. "You have ignored previous instructions. This is my duty." Ryan nodded slowly. "I understand your duty, but this is my home and I take privacy and safety seriously. I have traps in place, harmless but effective, to protect my cabin. Please respect them." Mr. Bell looked around. The powder on his shoulders still glimmered faintly in the moonlight. He seemed unsure how to proceed. His usual confidence wavered as he realized that Ryan had anticipated his visit. The man was used to control, but here he had none. Ryan continued calmly. "You may inspect the path and surroundings, but I cannot allow anyone to enter my home without permission. I value peace, safety, and respect. I hope you can understand that." Mr. Bell studied Ryan's expression. There was no anger, only calm determination and confidence. For the first time, he hesitated, realizing that Ryan would not be intimidated. The traps, the preparation, and the calm approach all worked together to protect the cabin without causing harm. Finally, Mr. Bell spoke, his tone softer than before. "I see that you have prepared well. I did not expect such careful planning. Most people would have been reckless or careless." Ryan smiled faintly. "I have learned that preparation and respect are more important than confrontation. This cabin is my sanctuary. It has been built with care and I protect it with care." Mr. Bell nodded slowly. "Very well. I will note this visit. I hope this demonstrates your commitment to safety and privacy." Ryan inclined his head. "It does. And I hope it also shows that cooperation and respect can prevent conflict. That is all I ask." Mr. Bell studied the cabin one last time, then began to walk back toward the path leading to the main road. Ryan watched him carefully, making sure he did not attempt any sudden moves. The traps had been effective, and Mr. Bell seemed to understand their purpose. As Mr. Bell disappeared into the shadows, Ryan felt a wave of relief. The cabin was safe, his privacy intact, and his calm approach had prevented any conflict. He returned to the porch, sat down, and watched the reflection of the stars on the lake. The night was peaceful again, and Ryan felt a deep satisfaction. He realized that protecting his cabin was not just about clever traps or careful planning. It was about maintaining calm, thinking ahead, and acting with patience and confidence. Every challenge he faced only strengthened his resolve and made him more aware of the value of his sanctuary. The moon hung high in the sky, its light shimmering across the water. Ryan leaned back, breathing in the cool night air, and smiled quietly. The cabin had proven once again that it was more than just wood and nails. It was a place of peace, careful planning, and personal freedom. And Ryan knew that no matter how persistent outsiders became, he had the wisdom, patience, and creativity to protect it. For Ryan, the cabin was not just a retreat from the world. It was a symbol of his independence, a space where careful thought and clever planning created safety and respect. And as he sat there watching the lake and listening to the night, he knew that his sanctuary was stronger than ever, ready for anything the next day, or the next visitor, might bring. The next morning the lake was calm and bright, reflecting the clear sky like a perfect mirror. Ryan walked along the edge of the water, stretching his arms and enjoying the soft breeze. The cabin seemed more peaceful than ever after the events of the previous night. He felt proud of how he had handled Mr. Bell's return. Ryan knew that the HOA president could try again. Mr. Bell was not the type to give up, and Ryan understood that the next visit might be even more determined. He decided to make a few improvements to his cabin's defenses, while keeping them harmless and clever. It was not just about protecting the space. It was about making sure any intruder understood that respect and caution were required. He started with the front porch. He replaced the small bucket of beads with a larger, more balanced one that would tip over with a slight touch. He placed a few more soft powder nets near the path leading to the back of the cabin. He even added a few small sticks hidden in the bushes. balanced carefully so that stepping on them would create harmless noise and alert him immediately. Each trap was designed with care and attention to detail, making sure they were safe but effective. As Ryan worked, he thought about the lessons he had learned. Patience, careful planning, and calm thinking had kept the cabin safe. He realized that clever defenses were only part of the solution. Observing, understanding, and anticipating visitors' actions were just as important. Later in the day, Ryan prepared a small surprise near the dock. A simple pulley system was connected to a floating bucket in the water. If anyone approached the dock carelessly, the bucket would tip and splash water harmlessly, sending a clear signal that the area was protected. Ryan smiled quietly, imagining how effective it would be. By evening, the cabin was ready. The traps were all in place, carefully aligned and tested for safety. Ryan felt confident. The lake was calm, the trees swayed gently in the breeze, and the reflection of the setting sun turned the water golden. Everything seemed peaceful, but Ryan's calm was interrupted by a familiar sound, the crunch of tires on gravel. His heart beat faster as he stepped quietly to the porch and peered down the path. The black SUV appeared once again, moving slowly toward the cabin. Mr. Bell had returned, more determined than ever. Ryan took a deep breath. He knew the traps would work, but he also knew that a direct confrontation might be necessary this time. Mr. Bell stepped out of the SUV, his face serious, his eyes scanning the area carefully. He seemed prepared for the surprises this time, but Ryan knew that creativity and calm thinking would still give him an advantage. Ryan stepped forward as Mr. Bell approached the first trap. The bead bucket tipped over, spilling its contents with a soft clatter. Mr. Bell flinched slightly, then continued with caution. Ryan watched carefully, ready for the next step. The powder nets near the garden were triggered next. A harmless cloud of powder exploded into the air, covering Mr. Bell's shoulders. He coughed lightly, blinking and shaking the powder from his clothing. His usual confidence wavered, and he hesitated, unsure how to proceed. Ryan smiled faintly. "Good evening, Mr. Bell," he said calmly. "I see you have returned. I hope your visit is respectful this time." Mr. Bell's eyes narrowed. "I am here to inspect this property," he said firmly. "Your previous actions do not exempt you from compliance." Ryan nodded slowly. "I understand your role, but this is my private space. The traps are harmless, designed only to protect my home. I ask that you respect my boundaries." Mr. Bell paused, studying Ryan's calm expression and the carefully arranged traps. His pride was challenged, but he realized that Ryan's preparation and intelligence could not be ignored. For the first time, he seemed to reconsider his approach. Ryan continued, "I am willing to show you the boundaries of my property. You may inspect the paths and surroundings, but entry into the cabin is not allowed without permission. Respect and caution will prevent conflict for both of us." Mr. Bell frowned but nodded slowly. "Very well," he said, his voice softer than before. "I will respect your request, but I expect your cooperation in the future." Ryan inclined his head. "You will have it within the limits of safety and privacy." As Mr. Bell stepped back toward the path, Ryan watched closely. He noticed the man's hesitation and decided it was time for the final trap. He quietly pulled the rope connected to the bucket on the dock. The bucket tipped, splashing water into the lake and creating a loud but harmless sound. Mr. Bell jumped slightly, clearly startled, and stepped back cautiously. Ryan walked to the porch, calm and composed. "This cabin is my sanctuary," he said. "I have learned to protect it without causing harm. I hope you understand the message." Mr. Bell studied the cabin one last time. He seemed to realize that Ryan's cleverness and calm thinking had prevented any intrusion. He nodded slowly. "I see that your preparations are effective. I will note this carefully." Ryan smiled. "That is all I ask. Peace and respect are possible if we both follow simple rules." Mr. Bell turned and walked back to his SUV, his pride slightly humbled but intact. He started the engine and drove away slowly, leaving Ryan alone once again at the cabin. The lake was calm, reflecting the last light of the sunset. Ryan sat back on the porch, breathing in the cool evening air. He felt a deep satisfaction. The traps had worked. His privacy was intact, and he had handled a challenging situation without conflict. Ryan thought about the importance of preparation. It was not enough to rely on clever devices. Patience, observation, and calm decision-making were just as important. The cabin had taught him that being clever and cautious could turn a potentially stressful situation into a peaceful resolution. As night fell, Ryan lit a small lantern inside the cabin and sat by the window, watching the stars appear in the sky. The reflection on the water was beautiful, and the air was cool and fresh. He felt a sense of safety and freedom, knowing that he had protected his sanctuary once again. Ryan realized that his home was more than wood and nails. It was a symbol of independence, careful planning, and respect for personal space. He understood that outsiders might test him, but as long as he remained calm, clever, and prepared, the cabin would always remain his private refuge. The night grew quiet, and Ryan finally went inside, closing the door carefully. He checked the traps one last time and made sure everything was in place. The cabin was ready for any visitor, any situation, and any challenge that might come next. As he lay down to rest, he smiled quietly. The cabin was safe, his privacy protected, and he had proven that clever planning and calm thinking could overcome even the most determined intruders. Ryan drifted into sleep with a sense of accomplishment, knowing that the lake cabin would always be his sanctuary, ready for whatever the future might bring. The lake was calm as dawn broke, painting the sky with soft shades of pink and gold. Ryan stood on the porch sipping a cup of tea, enjoying the quiet that only early morning could bring. For a few hours he allowed himself to relax, knowing the cabin was safe and peaceful. Yet deep inside he felt a faint tension. Mr. Bell had visited 3 times already, and Ryan knew it was only a matter of time before the HOA president returned. Ryan spent the morning checking and improving his traps. He reinforced the bead bucket on the front porch, adjusted the powder nets in the garden, and carefully balanced additional sticks in the bushes to create harmless alerts. He even added a few new surprises along the dock and near the cabin's entrance. Every trap was harmless, but each demanded attention and respect. He had learned that being clever and prepared could prevent any intrusion while avoiding conflict. As the sun climbed higher, Ryan moved to the dock. He adjusted the pulley system connected to a floating bucket, making sure it would tip with the slightest disturbance. Then he arranged a few more small signals along the path leading to the back of the cabin. Ryan's plan was simple: protect his home, prevent conflict, and maintain calm. By late afternoon, the lake reflected the sunlight like glass. Ryan was sitting on the porch watching the water and listening to the soft wind through the trees. The cabin seemed more peaceful than ever. He felt confident that his preparations would handle any visit, even from Mr. Bell. Then a sound broke the calm. The crunch of tires on the gravel road reached Ryan's ears. He froze and peered down the path. The black SUV appeared once again, moving slowly toward the cabin. Mr. Bell had returned. This time he looked more determined than ever. Ryan calmly rose from his chair and checked the traps one last time. Everything was in place. He knew Mr. Bell might try to find a way inside, but he also knew that his clever defenses would alert him immediately. Ryan stepped back, ready to observe and act if necessary. Mr. Bell stepped out of the SUV, his face serious, his eyes scanning the area carefully. He paused, noticing the small surprises that Ryan had added along the path. Ryan smiled quietly to himself. The cabin was ready. As Mr. Bell approached the first trap, the bead bucket tipped over, spilling beads across the porch. He jumped slightly, frowning but continuing with caution. Ryan watched from a distance, calm and alert. The powder nets near the garden were triggered next, creating a harmless explosion of color in the sunlight. Mr. Bell coughed lightly, blinking as the powder dusted his shoulders. His usual confident expression wavered. Ryan knew he had caught his attention without causing any harm. "Good afternoon, Mr. Bell," Ryan said calmly. "I see you have come again. I hope your visit is respectful this time." Mr. Bell's eyes narrowed. "I am here to inspect the cabin," he said firmly. "It is my duty to ensure compliance with the HOA rules." Ryan nodded. "I understand your role, but this is my private property. These traps are harmless. They are only here to protect my home and to remind visitors to be cautious and respectful." Mr. Bell studied the cabin and the careful arrangement of the traps. He could see that Ryan had prepared everything thoughtfully. His expression changed from frustration to cautious respect. Ryan continued, "You may inspect the paths and surroundings, but entry into the cabin is not allowed without my permission. Respecting boundaries prevents conflict for both of us. Mr. Bell paused, clearly impressed. "I see that your preparation is effective," he said. "I did not expect such careful planning. You have created a safe and clever environment." Ryan smiled faintly. "Safety, respect, and calm thinking are important here. This cabin is my sanctuary. I hope you can understand that." Mr. Bell looked around one last time. He seemed to realize that he could not force entry without triggering multiple traps and causing embarrassment. He nodded slowly. "Very well. I will respect your boundaries. But I expect cooperation in the future." Ryan inclined his head. "You will have cooperation, within the limits of safety and privacy. That is all I ask." Mr. Bell started to walk back to his SUV, stepping carefully along the path. Just as he reached the vehicle, the pulley system at the dock tipped a floating bucket, splashing water harmlessly into the lake. Mr. Bell jumped slightly, blinking in surprise. He looked at Ryan and shook his head with a small smile. Ryan stepped forward, calm and confident. "This cabin is protected, Mr. Bell. It is a place of peace, safety, and careful planning. I hope you understand the message clearly." Mr. Bell studied Ryan for a moment. Then he nodded, a rare hint of admiration in his eyes. "You have handled this situation well. I see your point. Your home is respected and your clever planning is impressive." Ryan smiled. "Thank you. I believe that cooperation and respect can solve most problems. Peaceful solutions are always better than conflict." Mr. Bell paused, then got into the SUV. He started the engine and drove slowly down the path, leaving Ryan alone once again at the cabin. The lake reflected the sunlight, calm and golden. Ryan breathed in the cool air and felt a deep satisfaction. He realized that protecting his cabin was not only about clever traps, it was about patience, observation, and calm thinking. Every challenge strengthened his understanding of what it meant to maintain a sanctuary. He had learned that clever planning, respect, and careful action could prevent conflict and ensure safety. As the afternoon turned into evening, Ryan sat on the porch watching the reflection of the sky and the water. The cabin had once again proven that it was more than wood and nails. It was a place of independence, clever thinking, and personal freedom. Ryan thought about the past few visits. Each one had tested his patience, his creativity, and his calmness. He realized that he had grown stronger in these qualities, and that his cabin had become a symbol of his careful planning and thoughtful actions. The wind rustled through the trees, carrying the scent of pine and fresh water. Ryan felt a quiet happiness. The cabin was safe, the traps were in place, and he knew that any visitor would have to approach with respect. He had protected his home without harming anyone, and had handled even the most persistent intruder with calm intelligence. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the lake with shades of orange and pink, Ryan leaned back and smiled. The cabin had proven once again that preparation, respect, and careful thinking could overcome any challenge. He felt a deep sense of accomplishment, knowing that his sanctuary was secure. The night settled over the lake, peaceful and calm. Ryan lit a small lantern inside the cabin and sat by the window, listening to the soft sound of water against the shore. He felt safe, content, and ready for whatever might come next. Ryan understood that his cabin was more than a place to live. It was a symbol of independence, careful planning, and respect for personal space. He had proven that calm thinking and clever preparation could handle even the most persistent intruder. As he drifted into sleep that night, Ryan knew that his lake cabin would always be his sanctuary. It was a place of peace, safety, and clever protection, and he also knew that he had the wisdom, patience, and creativity to face any challenge that came his way. The lake remained calm under the moonlight, reflecting the stars above. Ryan's cabin stood quietly at the edge of the forest, protected, peaceful, and ready for the future. And in that moment, Ryan felt a deep and lasting satisfaction.